You are listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg, and today I'm joined by my co-host Leon. Let's go! Hi guys, welcome to the show. This is episode number 37. And today I am joined by just Leon.
Yo.
Yeah, so it's been a busy couple of weeks for comics, I guess. There's been some new number ones for us to sort of dive into, and I've been to Leicester Comic Con.
Leicester Comic Con?
Yeah.
What's Leicester Comic Con?
What is Leicester Comic Con? It is something akin to MCM Expo, I guess. That kind of event. If you've ever been to these sorts of events, it's like a big sales hall, less kind of close-knit than and more commercial than the usual convention that you might think of in the UK. Because, I mean, the stuff we're kind of used to in the UK, or the stuff that I'm kind of used to, tends to be the sort of... like your general anime convention type things like Amicon and KitaCon and that kind of thing. Started out as anime conventions, but kind of broadened a little bit.
So the sort of like fan run event.
Yeah, but it's like it's less like that, less close knit, less of a community block party thing, and more of a commercial sales, like a whole sales room and a couple of events that you can go to and go and
like
watch.
An expo.
Yeah, like an expo. Yeah. I've never been to an expo though. This is like the first time I've been to that sort of event, I guess.
I see.
So yeah, it was kind of cool to go there, and it was cool to see, and they had a lot of cool stuff on sale and things like that, and some guys selling vintage comics, some people selling vintage toys, action figures, stuff like that, clothing and all the kind of usual stuff you'd expect. It's obviously smaller scale than like what you would probably expect going to like MCM in London or Birmingham or something like that, but it was cool. It was a good day out. They had like some professional cosplayers there in Star Wars stuff. They had some really cool photo opportunities. I had a photo of myself in a trash compactor. So like, the Star Wars trash compactor.
Yeah.
Someone had like made one that like a photo booth that you could stand in and pretend you were getting trash compacted. And I had a photo taken in there.
See, that's pretty cool. Like I saw some of the photos you took, and it did look. I mean, like the benefit of having these more regional expo type events are that not everybody can get to Birmingham or London.
Exactly.
It's a great opportunity for people who enjoy all these types of things to have an opportunity to dress up as their favorite characters, meet up with their friends, and peruse the different wares, meet some of the creators, and like buy a lot of goods, buy a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah, exactly. They had some artists there, and obviously most of the stuff that's available in there is not stuff that you can just go out and grab, on the high street or even find on Amazon sometimes. It's like, this is kind of like the one time a year where it's easy to get that stuff at a decent price, if you see where I'm coming from. And it was nice to have that in Leicester. It was nice to have something like this in my hometown, within walking distance of my house. And like to be able to go there and check it all out and everything, and not have to worry about paying massive hotel prices and things like that to do it. It was quite cool.
Yeah, travel as well.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say. So, did you pick up much stuff?
Yeah. I grabbed some vintage Batman comics. Well, I say vintage. They're from the 1980s and early 90s. I guess that's vintage now, right? It's 30 years.
Practically retro.
Yeah. So yeah, I picked up some retro Batman comics. There's a guy a guy I know who sells comics quite regularly in Leicester, does like pop-up comic shops. Check him out on Twitter at Transwarp Comics. You've probably seen me sort of like retweeting some of their stuff occasionally because it's really good what he does. He has a lot of vintage comics, selling stuff from his own collection, and he also has a vintage and retro comics, and he also has stuff like variant covers of newer releases and things like that, and he always has like quite a good amount of stock. So I went over to him and spoke to him, and he hooked me up with a couple of complete Batman arcs, like 3-issue arcs that he had on sale. So that's pretty cool. And I sat and read those. And I picked up a Two-Face action figure. So the ones they did for the 75th anniversary in the style of the new Batman Adventures. And it's Harvey Two-Face in the Bruce Timm style with, like a couple of accessories. Yeah, the black and white suit, the blue face, the coin, everything else.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm debating whether or not to unbox that. I got a couple of cool T-shirts. They were done by there's like one of the independent artists that was there selling his stuff. He was selling prints, but then he had like a T-shirt press there with him. And if you saw something you liked on a print and were so inclined to get it on a T-shirt, he'd put it on a T-shirt for you there and then. So I got a couple.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got a couple of cool T-shirts. So I got a TMN T-shirt, and I got a so it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for anyone that doesn't know what TMNT is, which is probably very few of you, and especially if you listen to this podcast. And I got a Thundercat shirt as well. I bought a couple of new hats because obviously I like my hats. Most photos you see me in, I'm wearing a snapback now. So I bought a Ghostbusters one and a Batman one. But yeah, I mean, what I'm going to do as well, because I haven't actually I've made the fatal error of not having the card I was given by this independent artist that was making T-shirts in front of me while I'm doing this podcast. So what I will do is I will add it in the show notes, and you will be able to go and check his stuff out. Because you should, because it's really cool.
And you should throw them up on the Insta.
Yes, definitely, I will. Yeah, so it was a good day out, and it was nice to see people coming, and enjoying that in my hometown, and nice to see that there are people that enjoy that in my hometown, and like such a really like inclusive day as well, like. It was good to see all kinds of people there and represented and everything else. And it was nice to see that and to see that inclusiveness or whatever represented in an event. And it was good to see like kids enjoying it and being encouraged by their parents to enjoy it as well. Because there were kids and parents that obviously enjoy the same things, like whole families going there along for a family day out. And in some cases, the kids were more into it than the parents. But there you go. The parents were more into it than the kids. Sorry, should I say? And yeah, it was encouraging to see when you're walking through the sales hall and a couple of like young boys and a couple of young girls as well just sat in the corner in cosplay, like reading comics, which was encouraging to see. Like I'm talking like 10, 12-year-olds sat down reading comics and stuff, which you don't see anymore, and it's nice to see that. It's cool.
That's awesome because like we're speaking on the last episode, we're talking about how a lot of the fandom, because of the success of the movies, it sort of moved where the films have sort of become the focal point media, and it's kind of nice to have these conventions and expos having the focus like centered back on comics themselves, as well as the films and TV shows and all that. So that's quite awesome to hear.
Exactly, yeah, and that was one of the things that the Transwarp guy was doing as well, because he sells he has like a huge selection of comics that he sells for £1 each, that he literally aims that at kids to get kids into comics. So he's like, yeah, kids, it's like cheap, it's like pocket money comics, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and like you say, you had the like kids just sat with their backs against the walls in cosplay reading comics, and I was like, that's awesome. That warms my heart to see the next generation enjoying it, and to know that people are still going to love comics long after I'm gone, which is
physical
cool.
As well.
Yeah, physical comics, yeah, actual paper comics. They weren't on iPads or anything reading digital. No, they had actual paper in their hands, and that was even better. So yeah, it was a really cool day out, definitely. And the other thing that I've done over the last 2 weeks is I've actually seen Lando now. Lando, I mean Solo.
That's a very good Freudian slip.
yeah, but it is basically Lando the movie because Lando steals the show. I'm sorry to say, Lando's the best character.
What were your thoughts overall?
I enjoyed it. I mean, I can see why it has probably fallen a bit flat at the box office. But I don't think it's that. But I don't think there's anything really truly wrong with it at all. I think it's still a good fun film, and it's fun to watch. There's a couple of bits in there, like, without going into too much detail and without spoiling it, there's some stuff that I think people might find confusing if they hadn't, or one particular thing that people might find confusing if they were just fans of the movies.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's cool nonetheless. I enjoyed it, and I thought it was a good film, and I liked it, and I liked that kind of it had this whole like sort of like Western in space type thing going for it. Like, obviously, like on a low level, like it wasn't like a true Western or anything, but it did have that kind of vibe, and I like that.
Yeah, it definitely committed to a more sort of genre appropriate like template for the story, which was quite cool.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, Lando stole the show.
He does, and I wish there was more of him in the film.
Yeah, he deserves his own film. I mean, they were saying they were going to do it, weren't they? Or
yeah.
I've heard there's been whispers that they were going to give Lando his own film, but he doesn't need his own film, does he? Because he's got his own comic now at the moment.
Indeed.
So he doesn't need his own film right now. He does need his own film, but not right now, because he's got his own comic. And I think we both read this one. So this is the first of the comics we've got on the list. And that is Lando, Double or Nothing, #1. Leon, do you want to kick us off with this?
Yeah, so I'd heard rumblings of this in the run-up to the Solo film. And, like, up front, I haven't read any of these Star Wars new extended universe comics since The Force Awakens. Like, I haven't read any of them. Have you read any? You read the Phasma one, right?
Yeah, I read the Phasma books, yeah. And that's like a kind of mini-series that was set between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. That sort of like tells you what happens to Phasma after Kylo's sort of like moon base gets obliterated or whatever.
Yeah.
Moon base? Can you call it a moon base?
The Death Star Mark II or whatever.
Yeah. The thing, weren't they on a? There was like a planet and there was a base.
Starkiller base or something.
Yeah, like Starkiller base. That's it. Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
But yeah, like I haven't read. I haven't read any of them. And I've been kind of tempted. I heard the one set around Rogue One that I think was focused on Jin's dad. I think I heard that was good. I heard Phasma one that you guys read. I heard that was good. And so I've been tempted. But I always have that fear that it's going to just feel like, you know, I used to read the novelizations of films from time to time, and they always sort of they're kind of cool because they sometimes have stuff that was omitted from the script or like edited out of the movie, but then sometimes they just have these weird fan fiction-y bits where they try to explain away plot holes, and then on the worst case they sometimes just feel non-essential, like weird spin-offs.
Or they're just like a plain terrible adaptation of said movie. I like to call that video game of the movie syndrome.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because if there's a video game of the movie, you know the video game sucks.
Yeah, like I think we can count on one hand in history of video games how well the tie-ins have been.
Yeah, the amount of movie adaptations to video game that have actually been all right.
So like I went with this one. I'd heard good things. It looked interesting, and I thought, I mean, everybody since that Super Bowl ad, all anybody cares about is Donald Glover as Lando. Let's face it. So I thought I didn't really get my fill of Lando in the movie. Like I wanted some more. So I thought, let me try the book. And it's fresh. This is issue 1 of the writing done by Rodney Barnes, art done by Paolo Villanelli, the colours done by Andres Mossa. And I quite like it. For a first issue, it does set up quite a cool sort of heist setup, the sort of regular, like, Cowboy Bebop-esque, Star Wars-esque, somebody with a noble mission comes up to our lovable scoundrel character and needs help to pull something off to help people. They've got this mission and they need this person's help. In this case, Lando, or with Han Solo in other stories, or Mal Reynolds, like anyone else in that sort of archetype. They're like, yeah, I don't care about your moral cause because I'm a lovable rogue, but if you give me the right price, I'll help you out. So it has that sort of standard setup, but it's really cool. Like I do like how they've set it up, and it's obviously set before the Han Solo film, and it feels like a cool opportunity for us to spend more time in these characters and get in their heads a bit. So my fear normally with things like that, as well as my main fear was with the whole Solo movie, is that there's mystery to these characters that I don't need the dots connected, and it will sort of dilute the character a bit. So that is a fear, but I haven't really got that from this issue so far, and it actually just feels like a nice opportunity to spend some issues on this this heist with a character that we really like, seeing a new side of him, and a character we're introduced to in the Solo movie, L3, and it's fun to spend. It's fun to have them as more of the focus, because they were good supporting characters in the Solo movie, and Lando's generally a good supporting character in Empire and Jedi. But here, with the focus being more on Lando, it's quite cool. It's a bit weird at first because we're used to him being like the confident and swaggery charmer. So here, because we spend more time, you do get a bit of, like, we see a bit behind the veneer, more so than you even see really in the Solo film, where it's a bit like try hard smug type thing. It's like overcompensating with overconfidence, but which I'm not used to seeing, because I'm used to him just being like suave and cool. But I think there's an opportunity to do something quite cool there, and it doesn't quite feel like fan fiction. So I think it's a cool sort of way in. And my favorite thing with this, I mean, I think Villanelli's art is so cool. Like the likeness of Donald Glover's Lando is really good, but also I think all the characters have quite a cool representation and design, and everything sort of moves. There's a nice pace to this first issue.
Yeah, it's got good pacing. The artwork's great. There's some cool panel works in places. I like how they've illustrated. There's a space battle, and there's they've illustrated it in a really awesome way. And this is where like some of the cool panel work comes in the way they've done the space battle in the book. And there's like a really nice sort of like double page spread that I could have as a poster on my wall. It's beautiful. And it's the Millennium Falcon and a bunch of TIE fighters.
Yeah,
really
that
awesome.
is
Yeah,
great.
It's like the way they've put this together as well. Like just talking about this section of the comic particularly, because this is the bit where it really shines. Like the rest of it's great and everything, but this bit particularly, the way it's been put together, it gets across like the sort of like the frantic action and the snap decision making these people are having to make when they're on board the Millennium Falcon, in order to get out of this particular like frying pan, shall I say. And it's like it's just really cool how it all comes together and how they've worked it in such a way to convey that urgency and that sort of like split second decision making between each panel. And I think it comes together really well. Like you were saying, the likeness of Donald Glover here, in how they've designed Lando in the comic book is really cool as well. I like how they've done that. It's a nice tie to the movie, and it's a good look. And yeah, it's just really good. And L3 is just as good in here as she is in the movie. So yeah,
yeah, they carry on the banter in a really fun way.
Yeah, I do like this book. I like how colourful it is actually.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it could have easily fallen into a sort of mucky, like sort of dull,
that Tatooine palette.
Yeah, you know, space black market type feel where it's all alleyways and scumbags, and there are alleyways and scumbags here, but with young Lando having that cool sort of yellow shirt design and having the capes, and like the use of like blasters and things like that, they do allow the images to like pop off the page in a really cool way, and I think it's really effective, and I like the fact that this is like just a 5-issue miniseries. So I think it'll be cool if they stick the landing. We could have a really nice arc here that will play into how we understand these characters. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, it all comes together really nicely. And yeah, it is actually it's a great comic, and I'm bring on number 2. I want to see where this goes. I want to see what happens. Onward from there is a number 1 that I picked up, which was Sword Daughter, which I think we mentioned on the previous show in the pull list. And this is a Viking revenge tale that is very reminiscent of Japanese samurai cinema. So, you know, like these like black and white Japanese samurai films, like
Seven Samurai, Yojimbo.
Yeah, the Akira Kurosawa type stuff. Yeah. It's reminiscent of that in the way that it is sort of played out and written. And as I mentioned before, it's a Viking revenge story, so it's set during Viking times. What we've got on the cover of the first issue is a young girl holding a stick above her head as a sword, a fire in the background. It's all framed in sort of like drab muted colours like greys and browns, and her father is sat behind her. So this is like what we were saying about Lando being really colourful. This is the opposite, because although it's colourful, it's drained as well. And I think that's done on purpose because it's supposed to look bleak and inhospitable, I guess.
It's a very evocative like issue cover.
Yeah. And this is a story that is set on Iceland, as far as I can work out. I mean, for historical accuracy's sake, it does quite well with the way that it frames the era that it's supposed to be in and things like that. And for historical fiction and whatever else, it's doing quite a good job. I like that it's. I like that it tries to get that right. I think that's really cool. So the story is basically around a girl and her father. The sort of like the short version is, the synopsis is that their entire village was wiped out by a band of marauders, Vikings, if you will, called the 40 Swords. And after that, her father kind of went into a sort of 10-year trance, and she fended for herself and looked after him by trading with shipbuilders, and we come to the present day where he wakes up. The book he's kind of in a trance, just kind of like not like we don't know if he's asleep or what, or whether he's just like he's completely shell shocked by the whole ordeal, but he wakes up anyway. And she has looked after him that whole time. And the book is narrated, I think it's her as an adult narrating it. And from the sounds of it, she now lives with nuns from the way it's narrated. And this is her telling her story. So she finishes her chores and then she gets to write her story. And this is her recounting her story of how she came to be and who she is. And yeah, it is literally a revenge tale, because the minute her father wakes up, he's just out for revenge on this band called the 40 Swords. And so far, it's just really, really cool. I'm just flicking through it now as I'm talking, and we've got some really nice panel work in the illustration of the bleak landscapes and the sort of like inhospitableness that they're trying to get across, and how everything's grey and muted. And the only pages that aren't grey and muted are the pages that display what happened to the village, because it's all angry and it's all hot, it's all red, fire and blood, and oh yeah, it's just great. It's the relationship between the girl and her father as well. Like, she doesn't seem to talk. Like, she's gone a bit feral in the time that she was left to fend for herself and to help him. And most of the way that she expresses herself in this book is done through speech bubbles that contain symbols, which I thought was quite cool. Other than the narration, which is obviously her when she's older. The dialogue is it's like, again, this is where they've sort of like tried to go for historical accuracy, because the way the father talks, some of the dialect choices reflect maybe how people would have spoken at the time.
Okay.
So I think there's a bit of research been done in that way. I'm not sure.
In what ways?
Well, I'm not sure whether the words he uses would have made it to Iceland. I don't know how that worked, but he uses words like we and bairns. So like wee bairns as in small children or small babies, which is, I think that's like Northern England and Scotland that usually use that, like the Northeast, and then Scotland use those words as well. But I don't know.
Do you think it's used to give that sort of feel? Like, so while it might not be like one-for-one trading, it's like in like certain movies which are like set in the past, but they make everybody English. But like, if you like the rulers will have like, even if, so we're talking about like let's say it's a movie set in Russia or something like that. Yeah. So like all the noble people will have like RP, Queen's English, and then all sort of the people who work the lands and the lower classes, they'll generally give them like an assortment of Midlands and Northern accents. Do you think it might be a thing like that where they're sort of using it to? Yeah, I think it could well be, because I think if they had them speaking, because I'm assuming they would be speaking Danish or something, so or they'd be speaking Nordic, some kind of Nordic language or dialect. So I'm assuming that's why they've done it. So yeah, I think that's probably what it is, to give it some kind of flavour. Yeah, and there's like I was saying, there's good attention to detail in the writing with regards to historical accuracy, is what I find. Yeah, it's has a lot in common with Japanese samurai cinema in the way that it's framed and the way that it's written out, and the artwork is beautiful, detailed realism. And there's this awesome double page spread of where this is where the colour comes in, which is like the Band of Marauders, the 40 Swords, and it's all vivid and angry, and all the other pages are muted, and I thought that was a nice touch. But the other pages being muted don't necessarily depict the calm and serene. They give you the harsh and the like sort of like inhospitable, like savage landscape that these guys are inhabiting right now, because
there's nothing left. Basically, they've basically the land that has been settled has been taken to the point where it can't really support more people because they've stripped it of pretty much everything. And there's great attention to detail in expression, and yeah, it's just a great book, and it's a great first chapter in this revenge tale. You see I'm like dancing around story details. I'm trying not to go into it on purpose, but yeah, it's good. And I can't wait for number 2. I'm looking forward to it because it's my kind of thing. Historical fiction, but set in a part of the world that I was very interested in as a kid. When I used to learn about the Dark Ages and stuff. So yeah, and I'm still interested in that stuff, to be fair. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely right on my alley. And that one is published on Dark Horse. And we have a writer, Brian Wood, artist, Mac Chater, colorist, Lauren Aff, or Afe, I think it's Aff. The cover artist is a Greg Smallwood, and we have letters by Nate Pierkos. Yeah, and it's just a great, well put together book, and I am much looking forward to it. There's also colours by Jose Villarrubia in here as well. But yeah, no, it's great. I like it. And I've got another number 1 to talk about, haven't I? Because the next one on my list is another one. And this is Blackwood, and this is another one published on Dark Horse Comics.
Wow, another one.
Yep, and the creative team behind both of mine are Dark Horse. This is like the Dark Horse episode. The creative team on this one, you've got writer Evan Dorkin, artist Veronica Fish and Andy Fish, and cover artist Veronica Fish. With this one, where this one's concerned, Andy Fish also takes care of layouts and lettering. And you've got like a variant cover by a Becky Cloonan. Now, this book is in stark contrast to Sword Daughter. This is it's bright and it's bombastic in places. It's cartoony. It's the cover. In fact, it's got these like sort of like bright, almost neon quality to it, like under a blacklight type thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bright colours in here, and the cover itself is the school gates and what appears to be who I'm assuming is sort of the central heroine of the book, because there's like a group of main characters, but I think the book will focus mainly, or this first issue tends to have more focus on this character, and I think she's going to end up being the central heroine of the story. She's like walking through the school gates, and this is framed in bright pinks and purples and yellows and some blues, and it's like bright colours on a dark background, on a black background. So like fluorescent pink and fluorescent yellow on a black background. What you might expect from a band t-shirt or something like that. And when you open it up, this theme kind of continues of bright colours in contrast to stark, thick black lines and dark backgrounds. And it works really well for the content of the book. We've got some cool panels showing like facial expressions and things like that. This thing is like it's like really good at being horrifying and a cartoon at the same time. So it does very well at that. Like sometimes it's like truly horrifying, and like it has some like some sort of like gut-wrenching expressions in there and things like that, and the way that with things that are happening and stuff, and some really decent horror and some really decent depiction of horror and some real Lovecraftian design about it that I really love. And then at other times it's got some plain cartoon expression with people expressing disgust with each other or things like that, or talking and facial expressions while they're talking and things, which is kind of cool. The story itself centres around some teenagers who enrol in what is Blackwood College, which is a school that trains students in the occult, and in a desire to enhance their supernatural abilities and bond with others, that's where they've gone. And this school is obviously cursed, and things start to happen. Ghosts in the dorm, weird Lovecraftian stuff, and yeah, it just sort of like spirals up from there. So yeah, I really liked this one. I liked the Lovecraftian edge to it, and there's some great panel sequences. One of the best ones is a character being awoken by dripping blood and faced with horror when she wakes up. She's like looking up, and there's this like thing that's been spat out of hell kind of like standing above her. And the expressions are like some really ghoulish stuff in there, but then like facial expressions are so great and full of feeling in this book, especially when they're seeing this stuff and things. It's just so great the way that's done. And there's another part of the book where there's a descent into a well, and I think this is really well done, and this reflects the background with like kind of like the neon colours on the really black, reflects the cover even, sorry, with the neon colours on the black background, and it looks very, very cool. Yeah, and it's just the whole design of the thing is just brilliant. So yeah, all in all, this is like another great issue 1, I think, to go with some of the new sort of number 1s that we've had. And I wholeheartedly recommend it if you like your Lovecraftian horror, with your bit of high school flavour in there. Then this is for you. And the main heroine as well. Of what I said, the girl that I think this story is going to centre around. She's like this no nonsense punk girl with a kind of like a little bit of an attitude problem. Ren Valentine's her name. She's kind of cool, so I think you might enjoy. Yeah. If
I wasn't sold before, now I'm sold.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got like her short silver hair, and she's like really angry. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I love my angry protagonists.
Yeah, angry teenage protagonist. No, it's
that is all my bullshit right there. So yeah,
it's like someone took H.P. Lovecraft, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Harry Potter and put it all in the same cooking pot, I guess. It's the best way to describe this book. It's my way to describe this book.
I always find it quite interesting when you get like decent horror releases during the summer. So you've got this in the cinema. We've got that film Hereditary that's meant to be really, really good, and it just feels like as the days have got longer and the temperature is risen, it's just such an antidote where we're just like, go away. I just want to like hide away from the world.
Yeah.
It's a good antidote to the prescribed sort of joy that the summer is meant to give us. And it's like, no, just hand me that scary shit, please.
Well, I like the joy. I like the sunshine, but horror's perennial for me, as you know. So it's something that I surround myself with all year round, especially where comic books are concerned. Do like me some horror comics. I'm getting, as I've been saying before, I'm getting more and more into classic horror comics and stuff like that. Been reading some of those. Like I mentioned last episode, I picked up some classic horror books. And it's really interesting to read back through those. And as I was saying before, sort of like see why there was a comics code at one point. So yeah. No, it's really good. So where are we going onwards from there? I think we're on to you, aren't we, Leon, for Captain Marvel?
We are. So
carry on.
well, like on the last episode, I was speaking a lot about trying to catch up with a lot of the stuff that I've started and not finished since we started this podcast. And I've been doing good. I've been continuing with books that I'm going to speak about more so on future episodes as I progress through the trades. But there are still books current, like the Lando book that I checked out. I also decided to pick up a book that wasn't even on my list. So yeah, I'm following my plan and not following it because I don't know what it is, but I've wanted to check out like new Captain Marvel or Captain Marvel after she stopped being Miss Marvel. I've wanted to catch up on that for years since they launched her back in 2012, but I just never had a reason to. And then a confluence of events have just put me in such a I need to check out some Captain Marvel. So I mean, the movie's made $2 billion at this point. So if you don't want to hear anything about any movies that have come out this summer, skip ahead for 1 minute.
Yeah.
But in a post-credit sequence of a highly successful movie this year, we're given the heads up that Captain Marvel's going to be in the next movie.
Was that little indie one that came out of nowhere and won all those awards at Sundance?
Yeah. It was a crowd pleaser, but I don't know if it's going to get good distribution. Hopefully, it pops up on Netflix or something.
Yeah.
But so like at the end, a page drops to the ground, and we get the Kree Miss Marvel symbol. And at that time, I was like, I need to check out, because I think the casting's really good. I love Brie Larson; she's been great in everything I've seen her in. And generally, I just like the idea of that character. But I've always had very basic knowledge. I know a little bit of the backstory with like Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, and like the different Captain Marvels there have been in the time, and all the stuff with Carol Danvers as Ms. Marvel. So I haven't read that much, but I've done a little bit of research like years back in the past, just because it was quite interesting to me. But like when they relaunched in 2012 the Captain Marvel run, and they basically did away, they like put a blanket on and tied a bow, and they said, okay, Ms. Marvel and her like tight like black costume was like, they've served their time, they're from a different time, whatever, we want to relaunch this character. Like, she's Captain Marvel now, and we're going to give her a cool design, and like, we're going to refocus what this character is about. And I think the design has always been really cool, because I believe they got Jamie McKelvey to design the new costume, and it's like blue, red, and with like hints of gold. So it's like, that's always sort of been in like the headspace. I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. And then recently, Vans have done like a Marvel run where they've released a bunch of t-shirts and shoes and bags like to do with like Marvel. So you got Hulk ones, General Avengers ones, and such and such. And most of it looked cool to me, but people on Twitter, including Jamie McKelvey himself, retweeted the Captain Marvel shoes, and they looked really good.
Oh, those Captain Marvel ones are amazing.
Yeah. And that got me thinking, like, I was tempted to get a pair, but they weren't, they were like super hard to get, as these things can be with limited edition runs. But also, McKelvey himself said the sizes, they were made more specifically for women, so the sizes don't go all the way up past a certain size. So he, the creator of this design that the shoe is based on, wasn't even able to get the shoes himself. But like, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So what happened is that I started like Adidas and Nike allow you to like custom design trainers. And I've done some in the past before, last year, with Nike. So I mocked up like my version of the Captain Marvel shoes. So instead of being Vans, they'd be like super comfortable Adidas or Air Force One Nikes. And then I did that, so like red, blue with the hint of gold. And I was like, man, what am I doing? Let me just read the comic now. I might hate that. So I went back and I picked up. This is a really long-winded way of me saying that I went back to the 2012 run, which is Captain Marvel in Pursuit of Flight, and it's the run written by Kelly Sue DeConnick, and the art done by Dexter Soy, and the letters by Joe Caramagna, who is also the letterist on the Lando comic.
Yes.
But yeah, anyway, so I've started reading this. I believe one of the later parts of this, so there's the initial 17 issues, and then they relaunched in Marvel style, where they just mess up numbering all the time. And I believe that the relaunch, or the second volume of this run, is available on Prime now. So if you have Prime, get access to a bunch of free books. So I think it's in the Kindle store. You can grab that. But yeah, getting back to this book, back on track. Yeah, I can see why this version of the characters sort of created this excitement and has led to the MCU version being based on this version of the character. Because one, the design is awesome. Carol's hair being up and sort of short on the sides, as well as the cool costume, just really work. And the comic, the first issue opens up with Captain Marvel and Captain America fighting side by side. It's fairly recent to her no longer being Ms. Marvel, and she no longer wears a mask. And they're fighting the Absorbing Man. And the Absorbing Man's been a complete misogynistic douche, but they're beating the crap out of him. And you get this conversation between Cap and Cap, and where he's saying you should take the mantle, and she's reluctant because she's like, I'd be stealing his name. But Captain America, he's like, that was just the mantle. Like, it wasn't his name. His name was Marvel. Like, it's a role, and he would have wanted you to have it. You've inherited. So you have that sort of living up to the name of someone that she respected. I mean, who led to her having her powers. And so I think it's a cool way to start off, like, having imposter syndrome, considering she's like this hero who's so powerful, can fly into space from Brooklyn in a minute and a half. I do love how Marvel are really good at humanizing their characters this way, and I think DeConnick nails that. And I think I've read the first trade so far, which is the first 5 issues, if I remember correctly, and I think they really nail making this character like fun, human, and like imperfect, but always striving for the best. And I think they do a really good job, and I'm looking forward to like reading on the run and continuing it to get to where they are now and seeing how they evolve and develop the character. Because one of the fears with a character like Captain Marvel is she's mega powerful. So it feels like with characters like that, there's a worry that you get sort of Superman syndrome, where they all start to create stupid rules for her, and for her to have a challenge, she's got to not do smart things.
Yeah.
Same like in bad Superman comics. Superman's got to be acting like an idiot and not using his full arsenal to ever be taken down, because otherwise, if he was on his game, there would be no challenge at all. So I'm hoping they continue down the path of finding interesting ways for her to engage. And one thing that's really cool with this comic as well, like I haven't read the Ms. Marvel stuff, but I think they do a good job of seeding that stuff and giving you like bits and bobs that are relevant to the character's journey, while also not being a loss. Like it's a really good example of how to relaunch a character. And like I've mentioned in the past on this very podcast, that one of the things that put me off a lot of Marvel and DC is that they're never-ending runs where they're constantly retconning characters, and it's just really hard to keep up with, and it feels like it's a big barrier, I think, for people at large who are not super invested, and are usually like tight, collected runs instead. And I think, like on our second episode, we were talking about Black Panther, the Ta-Nehisi Coates and Brian Stelfree's comic. And I think that does a good job of sort of relaunching the character, but without erasing the history. And I think this is also a great example. I think Soy's art is really cool. It's like this sort of painted, textured look, where like the backgrounds seem almost like paintings, but the characters don't feel like the characters have dimension. They don't feel like they're hovered on top because they feel all part of the same palette, and it makes the character designs and the storytelling like really really effective for me. And I like the way they represent like current sort of New York and Earth, and how the Avengers play off each other in this. It's like it's cool because it is such a connected book in the sense that we have Spider-Man just about, and all these different characters, Captain America obviously. So yeah, it's pretty good. And I mean, if you're like me, excited for the Captain Marvel movie next year, I think it's definitely a good starting point to jump on and brush up on this character, or this incarnation of the character.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one to get on and look at. Like, from what I know about it, I've not actually read it, so I should probably rectify that. But from what I actually know about it, it's supposed to be really good, and it was received really well. So yeah, definitely want to get on and read. In the spirit of that, I've been going back and reading some old stuff as well, but the stuff I've been reading is a little bit older than that. I've gone back in time to the late 80s, early 90s, where I have been reading some old Batman books. Now, this is the stuff that I picked up at Leicester Comic Con from Transwarp Comics. This is the two short Batman arcs that he kind of hooked me up with. So this is the sort of like in the continuing Batman comic running from the 1940s up to I think it ended after a point, and then they relaunched it and things got messy. But this is like, or they renamed it or something. This is running from the 1940s up to, so this is like that original Batman run, the unbroken Batman run, if you like. And the first run that I read from the two runs that I bought runs from Batman 433 to 435, and this story is called The Many Deaths of the Batman, and it deals with a serial killer in Gotham, killing people in Batman costumes, so bodies turning up in Batman costumes, and it's like a proper detective tale, you know? Like, this is because this is how Batman was detective stories, right? Batman is like supposedly the world's greatest detective, and these are detective stories, and this is like a proper detective tale of a man who somebody has been killing people dressed as Batman, and these bodies are turning up dressed as Batman. So the first issue in this arc, Batman 433, Batman Volume 1 433, should I say, you open it and it's everyone reacting to the supposed death of Batman, because the first body dressed as Batman has turned up in the morgue or whatever, and it's like it's in the papers and everything else, and it's everyone's reaction to that, and the comic is entirely silent apart from one line. It's like I think it's probably I'm not sure if it's I'm sure there's been silent comics before this one, but it's got to be a very good example of a silent comic from sort of like what I would say modern comics. Where it tends to be a thing now where people put silent pages into books more often. But the whole book was completely silent. There was no narration, no speech bubbles, apart from one line where Jim Gordon shouts, "Get out." But it's really good, and it's really nicely done in the way that everyone's reactions to the supposed death of Batman are illustrated. And you've got cameos from the Penguin, Two-Face, Dick Grayson, Starfire, like all looking at the newspapers and things, and like how they're reacting to this. the entire arc deals with Batman sort of like solving the case, as it were, of these people that are this person that is bumping off people dressed as Batman. And I'm not going to reveal too much in case you do decide to track it down and read it, but it's all to do with Batman's training, and it's a really cool story, and it's a really nice 3-issue arc. It's nice put together. I'm not sure if it's been collected anywhere at all. I would hope it has, because it's really cool. I like it. And this one is the writer is John Byrne, penciler Jim Aparo, inker Mike DiCarlo, colorist Adrian Roy, and letterer John Costanza. Yeah, and the artwork is sort of like that sort of classic kind of late 80s art that you come to expect from like that kind of style that you sort of come to expect from those DC comics, where everything is it had a very distinct style. It's hard for me to describe it, but yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. And the cover's really cool as well. We've got a Batman cowl pin. This is the cover of the first book in the 3-book series. We've got a Batman cowl pinned to a wall with a dagger. And it's just a really nice arc, and it was really cool to go back and read through that and some classic Batman stuff. And that was in 1989. That one was published. So
around the time of the Tim Burton film. Yeah,
May 89 up to July 89. Is when those 3 books were published. So that's the death of Batman, or the many deaths of the Batman. Yeah, and it was just cool how that was put together, and I really enjoyed that, and it's nice to go back and read that. And the second one, which is the one that I had a little bit more to say on, really, is Batman in Russia. And that one runs from Batman 445 up to 447, and the actual name of the arc, I believe, is When the Earth Dies, and you've got it's chapters 1 through 3, but chapter 3 has a slightly different name. Chapter 3 is Earth Day Demon Night, and yeah, this is what it says on the tin. This is Batman in Russia just after the fall of the Berlin Wall. Russia and America are trying to improve cooperation. It's Glasnost, which is like the period of time of Russia being open, trying to be open, and we've got Batman going to Russia to deal with the protege of one of his old adversaries, the KG Beast, and the character that he's hunting down, that he's trying to stop, is known as the Nkv Demon. And he's the protege of the KG Beast. So, a little bit of background first. The Nkv Demon, or Gregor Dozinsky, is a Russian mercenary agent and professional assassin, and he was trained by, as we said, the KG Beast, who has turned up in previous Batman comics, and to escape from Batman had to cut off his own arm. And it's really cool, and it's really really on the nose with this kind of stuff. The demon with his red and black and his hammer and sickle on his belt buckle and everything else. And it's basically Batman trying to foil an assassination attempt on Gorbachev, who was the premier at the time in Russia. And it's really like, I imagine when it was published, it was really sort of like in the events, like on kind of like the current pulse and everything else, with like Batman trying to preserve the effort that Russia and America were making to work together. Like, Batman's whole purpose for being in Russia was to foil the Nkv Demon's attempt to break apart the kind of the bridge that was being built, so to speak, by assassinating all the people that were promoting this period of openness and everything else. He was like going through different ministers, just taking them down one by one. Finally, like Mikhail Gorbachev was going to be his final target, basically. And this is like, through the 3 books, Batman is attempting to foil his attempts and things like that. And it's very much in the same style as the previous run. The writer on this one is Marv Wolfman. We have penciler Jim Aparo, inker Mike DiCarlo, colorist Adrian Roy, and letterer John Costanza again. The interesting thing about this one is the writer, Marv Wolfman, is responsible for creating Nightwing, Robin, Tim Drake, that is, Starfire, and the Nightwing identity, not actually Nightwing, obviously, Starfire, Raven, Cyborg, Deathstroke, Brother Blood, Trigon Destiny, Dr. Light. He's like, you know, the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor. He was the creator of the Nkv Demon. The Nkv Demon's first appearance was in these 3 books. So yeah, that's the interesting thing about this run. And it was just nice to read it, and it was nice to sort of like get an idea of what was going on at that time. And it gives you that kind of like, through comics, a snapshot of the politics of the time, if you get me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it was a good outlet for a lot of these writers to say some stuff.
Yeah. And this Nkv Demon guy is like hardcore for the teachings of Lenin and Stalin and Marx and things like that. And that comes out in this book, because in the final book, he's going to assassinate Gorbachev on Lenin's birthday, which also happens to be Earth Day. Because it's not only about the politics between America and Russia, it's also about being environmentally friendly and everything else, and working to kind of lessen the human impact on the environment, which is the other thing the book goes into a little bit, which is what these peace talks are mainly about, and things like that is what they say in this book anyway. It's Vicky Vale has this whole sort of monologue about it, sort of like somewhere in the book. The books that I picked up, the covers are by Brian Bolland. So it's some nice Brian Bolland cover art there for my comic collection. It was really nice to be able to buy those and read those. They were really cool. And yeah, anyone that says that comics should go back to being apolitical, tell me when they were apolitical. Come on, do it. Tell me. Give me a decade, give me a year, because I don't think there's ever been a time, and you know what? I don't think there ever will be a time, and and damn right there shouldn't be, because comics should explore this stuff because it's a really good medium for it. So yeah, no, it was really cool to be able to read those books, and they're really cool runs. I really enjoyed it. And I guess that brings us to the end, onto the pull list, I guess, which we'll go with the 13th of the 6th first. So this is the 13th of June. Yeah, there's quite a few things coming out on my list anyway. Got Analog number 3, which we've talked about previously. Dead Hand number 3. Death of Love number 5. So that'll be the last one, and that'll come to an end. We've got Kick-Ass number 5, the new Kick-Ass run. Rose number 12, which I have talked about on this cast previously, and I will get around to talking about again at some point, because it's a really good fantasy tale. Lost Light number 18, still the best Transformers book. Batman Prelude to the Wedding. This time it's Batgirl and Riddler. So if you remember before, we've had Robin and Ra's al Ghul, we've had Nightwing and Hush, and now we've got Batgirl and Riddler. Detective Comics 982 is out next week, this coming Wednesday, sorry, as is Mr. Miracle number 9, or even, actually, you know what, this coming Wednesday, I mean the date that this episode will air. Spectacular Spider-Man number 305, Mechadet U number 9. That's my pull list for this coming Wednesday, or if you're listening to this on Wednesday, the date that you are listening to this. So that's Wednesday, the 13th of June.
Right now, baby.
Yeah, right now, yeah. Go on and buy it quick before the shop closes. No, the next one is the 20th of June, and the things that I picked up from there just briefly, we've got Batman Prelude to the Wedding, Red Hood versus Anarchy, and we've got Batman number 49, which is in the lead up to the wedding. Batman 48, we had this nice Joker story, and I think the Joker's actions are what's bringing everyone else out of the woodwork leading up to the wedding, so I'm quite enjoying that at the moment. The Joker wanting to be the best man, I think, is the idea that's behind it. Or that's the Joker's twisted sort of... because he always has some kind of like sick, twisted thing behind his schemes, doesn't he? And I think this is to do with him being the best man at Batman's wedding, and him sort of going off the rails a little bit, having not received an invite, and he's like looking, yeah, he's basically there was like a on Free Comic Book Day in the DC kind of like collection prelude thing they did. He turns up at a guy's house and he's like waiting for the invite to come through the door. And he's like, "Where's my invite? I'm supposed to get an invite." And this guy's like, "What? You're crazy. Why would you get an invite to a wedding sent here? Like to I don't have anything to do with these guys. I don't know Batman from Adam. Like, why would he send me an invite and all this? And the Joker's like, I'm just waiting for the invite kind of thing. And he's got this guy at gunpoint in his kitchen watching the letterbox, and it's just like, it's completely nuts. Also that week we've got Hit Girl number 5, which is the continuation of the current Hit Girl run that we've got, where she's now in Canada. So that'll be interesting. And there's another new one that I picked up called Shanghai Red, which sounded kind of interesting. And that's on Image Comics. That one is about a woman who is shanghaied out of Portland in the late 1800s. She's drugged, kidnapped, and sold to a ship's captain. She wakes up on a boat headed out to sea for years, unable to escape or even reveal who she truly is. Now she's coming back in a boat covered in blood to find her family and track down the men responsible for stealing her life out from under her. And yeah, it just sounds really interesting. Sort of like set in that time and whatever, like it's some kind of revenge story. That is Christopher Sabela writing that. You've also got Josh Hickston working on it, and Hassan Otsman Elhau working on there as well as artists and cover artists. So yeah, that should be quite interesting. Quite interesting to look at that. And I think that is it for me for the pull list, unless you've got anything to mention, Leon?
No, just looking out for Mr. Miracle next week. Today, sorry.
Yeah.
That's it.
We're recording this on the Sunday. But yeah, so that has been Ace Comicals episode number 37. So you can find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Twitter at Ace Comicals. You can find me on Twitter at Batto. That's BATTOU. So come and tweet at us, DM us, get involved in the conversation. Tell us what you've been reading. Suggest some things that we should read, maybe talk about on the cast. If you go to our website, www.acecomicals.com, that is pretty much the hub for everything. We will find us on Instagram under Ace Comicals. You can find us to listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Castro. Leon, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Leon Everett.
Also, a quick note, if you like what you hear and you are so inclined, you can buy us a coffee on Ko-fi, or coffee. I'm not quite sure how to say it, but it's there. And we have a link on our website for that as well. So, yeah, I mean, all proceeds from there go to the cost of hosting and keeping the podcast up, basically. So, yeah, that has been Ace Comicals number 37. So that's Ace Comicals, over and out.